Alright guys, today we are making cherry pie. I love making these guys. They have a lot of great detail and cherry pie is delicious. So there are so many different ways to make cherry pie and there are lots of tutorials on how to make different pies. But this is my own personal style and take on it. I've seen people make cherry pies out of bottle caps, which I think are really cool. I've seen them make pies out of miniature pie dishes, which I think is really cool, but this is kind of a self-existing pie within the clay realm. That's my fancy way of saying that the pie doesn't have a pie dish, it's just a pie. Okay, so what do we need? We of course need some tan clay. We also need some different pastels, so like a brownish yellow and a light brown. You will also need some red clay for the inside of your pie. You'll need a pen. You'll need some brushes. You'll need some red oil paint. You'll need some liquid Sculpey. Am I running out of space here? And then you'll also need some black clay. All this will be in the notes, so don't be like worried about writing everything down. And then you'll need a spoon-like tool. This is actually a professional sculpting tool, but I think a spoon will do as well. This is just what I like to use. And you will also need a little miniature fork. You can use a pin as well. That sounds very specific. So I think for this we'll use both just to kind of give you an idea. Okay, so let's clean this crazy busy workspace. Move everything out of the way and let's get started with making our pie. Yum. Okay, so move this guy out of the way. Pop. I'm going to make sure my hands are clean. And if you've watched other videos, you know that I use baby wipes to clean my hands. So there we go. And let's go ahead and get a good chunk of tan clay. Here's our tan clay. I'm gonna go ahead and, that might be a little too much. Maybe it'll be just the right amount. I'm gonna pinch a little bit more off. I'm gonna roll it into a ball. Everything starts off with rolling it into a ball. Okay, here is my ball of clay. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to make the bed for where my cherries are gonna sit. So I am just going to put my thumb down and just make a circular motion. Okay, so here we go. That looks pretty good. I'm not gonna worry about any imperfections around the side just yet. All that's gonna change. So here we go. We have our little bed for our little pie crust. And I am going to go ahead and start adding in some definition for the pie crust. Okay? And then I'll move on to the filling. And the reason why I do that is because once I start adding the filling in there, it's going to get very messy. And I don't want the pastels to mess with the filling of the pie. Okay, so here we have our light brown and yellowish pastel. I've shaved it. I like putting it in these clear containers because I always shave off too much and so I can hold it for later. And let me just take a second here and I'm just gonna show you. So here's how I keep all my pastels, okay? I can easily see and grab which ones that I want and they just stack up on each other. So go and get this at your local craft store. Okay, so what I wanna start doing is I want to take just a little bit of my yellowish light brown. I want to tap it on the side. I do this just so I don't get too much on my brush. And then I want to start rubbing it lightly around and on the pie. I'm just giving it that baked look. It's looking good. You can even get in the middle. No real need to, but if you mix a little and get in the middle, that's fine. That is not a big deal. So I like my pies to be a little crispy. So there we go, there's that. Okay. And then we're gonna go in and we're gonna do like a little darker. So I got the darker brown color. I'm gonna tap it on the side because I really don't want that much of this darker brown because I don't want my pie to look burnt. I just want to give it some shading. Okay, so we're just going around shading our pie. I wish I had time to make real cherry pies. Okay, that looks pretty good. We're gonna get back to this later, so don't put these guys too far away from you. Okay, and whenever you're working with pastels, go ahead and, you know, wipe your hands, move your clay kind of away from where the pastel is. I'm gonna rotate a little. Okay, I'm just gonna check the camera real quick to make sure we're still in a good spot. All right, and now I'm gonna get into the fun part, which is the filling. So the way that we're gonna start with the filling is I have a cup here, and I'm going to go ahead and start filling the cup with red dots. Okay, so I wanna take my red clay and I'm just gonna pinch off a little, and I'm gonna keep making all of these little red cherries, and I'm putting it in this cup because I'm gonna mix it in a second. Okay, so that looks like enough cherries. I can always add more in later. And then there are two techniques here that you can do. You can either bake these guys beforehand, which will make them a little bit easier to work with, or you can just mix them all together. Okay, so I'm gonna keep this cup in the middle. I'm gonna put our pie piece aside for a second. And then what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to take a little bit of the liquid Sculpey and I'm gonna put it in the mix here. I don't need a ton. I mean, if you make too much, you can always use it again in some extra pies or save it for a while. This will not harden on you for at least a month or so. And then taking my red oil paint, I'm just going to, you might need a toothpick for this. I'm just going to take a little bit off. You know, I've tried pastels for this step, and I'm gonna mix it. And I found that my pastels mixed with the liquid Sculpey turned out a little pinkish to me, no matter how much I made of it. I really wanted it to look like red filling. Okay, so that looks pretty good to me. That looks pretty good. Let me see how it looks to you guys. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, so bringing our pie back in, we are going to start filling it. And you'll need a brush for this. I don't think a toothpick's gonna do the job just quite the way that we want it to. So let's go ahead and get a brush that we don't care about, because, you know, you should clean it afterwards, but in case you forget, just know that this process is going to permanently damage your brush. And then you're gonna take your clumps of cherryness and you're gonna put it inside your pie. Be very careful in this stage. Very, very careful, because you might need your toothpick to kind of like push it back down again. But you want to be really careful because red gets everywhere and you don't want to get red on the outside of your pie. Okay, so kind of push it out to the sides. You want to fill your whole pie. And then let's take the rest and try and scoop it all in. Okay, I like to put it in the middle so that I am not sacrificing my sides. And then I'll even it out. If you get too close to the sides, then it's really hard to get your pie clean again. That's why I like all these super master amazing miniature food people. Oh gosh, they have lots of patience. I have to do this project when I am not feeling rushed, because I am an impatient person sometimes when it comes to making some things. That's why I like really simple projects, okay? Great, that is looking awesome. Great, okay, beautiful, shiny, put all this aside. Okay, so what I wanna do next is I'm gonna put that aside, because what we have to do now is we have to roll out and make the lattice for our pie crust. So here we have, you can do this two ways, okay? You can take some polymer clay and you can kind of flatten it out. Or what I like to use is I like to use my pasta machine and roll it out. So I don't know if you guys are gonna be able to see this. This part might be a little bit crazy, so you might have to cut to it. You can roll out your clay. Actually, let's do the two methods. So I'm taking my pasta machine, I'm gonna roll this out. Since it's so close, you won't be able to see it. Okay, so this is what it looks like with rolled out pasta machine stuff. But you can also, if you don't have a pasta machine, you can also get one of these tools and just roll out your pasta. Roll out your clay, not your pasta. Or you can roll out your pasta too, okay? And so you can just take it and you can roll it. And it does a pretty good job. If you do a lot of polymer clay work, then I suggest getting a pasta machine roller. But it's equal. It's a little bit thicker, but you can take your time and thin it out some. So there's two techniques, but I like having my pasta machine. So here's my little rolled out clay. Okay, let me see if I can get it where you guys can see it. There we go. I'm gonna rotate this around a little. Okay, and then we're gonna shave off some bits. I'm taking a razor and I'm making some lines. I like to do multiple lines because sometimes it's uneven. I feel like if I was making a pie in real life, then it would still be uneven. Okay, I'm gonna put these strips to the side, and then I'm gonna show you guys how to make a lattice crust pattern for your pie. Okay, moving all that out. Okay, so start off with one middle strip. Okay, we got our one middle strip. Let me put that in the center for you. Okay, start with one strip. Then I like to place my middle strip. And then I just kind of try and fill in the gaps. So this is under, this is over. I think this is over. So I'm looking at here, over. To the other side, over. Okay, so since these are over, I'm gonna lift this one. I'm gonna go under. I have to think out loud to do this because I feel like if I don't think about it, then I'll mess up. So let's lift the underneath part, lay it down, and then go over. Okay, that's great. So before you put on your pie, it might get stuck, so you can take your razor and just kind of go underneath it, just a little bit, just to loosen it. Okay, you got that. Lift. We're going to move our cherry pie back over. Make sure you guys see it. All right, fantastic. And then I'm going to put the crust on top and then gently pat it down. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the edges of the crust and I'm pushing it down. And then I'm going to cut off the excess. Okay, just cut off little pieces. You can always use that for future crust. Okay. Great. Excellent. Fantastic. Coach yourself along the way. And you don't have to be like that sensitive about it. And if you see any imperfections, like for example, I see a little piece of hair here or something. I don't know what that is exactly, but you can take a pen and you can kind of flatten it back out. And don't worry about it too much because we're going to go back over with pastels, so That one might have been a little bit discolored, not quite here. I think it looks kind of bluish, but we'll cover it back up. Because the next step is going back in with your chalk and adding in some texture. Okay, so let me just put this one on this other side. There we go. And so we're gonna dab, and then we're going to take our lighter color and go, oh, see what just happened there? Okay, this is a good example. I was trying to talk at the same time, and I dipped into the red. So be really careful. I'm gonna take this moment to concentrate. So that part of the pie is going to be a little bit more cooked. Okay, be very careful to not get that red liquid Sculpey in there, because you're gonna get red on your crust. You want your crust to look baked. You don't want your crust to look like it is. Get that side. You can blow, oh, don't blow too much though, because you don't want to get your pastels everywhere. You don't want your crust to look like it's been covered in red juice. Juice. Ha. Okay, so that's like a nice little bit, let's get it like a little toasty, because you know ovens bake unevenly. Just go really, let me move that out of the way. Okay, and so I have my little reserves, just pat and blow, just a little bit. You don't want to go too nuts. Okay. Wow, it's starting to look like, oh, see, look, I did it again. I went too nuts. You have to be patient. All right? And maybe in our next step it might not. So just be patient. You can kind of go over it a little bit. We kind of fix it a little. I think it's good to kind of mess up a little bit, because I hate it when you see a tutorial and it's all perfection and you're just like, oh man, I can't do that. And I think it's good for them to show you when and how you can kind of fix it. So there we go. Okay, here's our pie. Fantastic. I'm going to wipe my hands with a craft wipe. And now we're gonna get into the crust part. This is where, I was like, you can use a miniature fork, which I think is harder to get, or you can use a pin to kind of make the little indentions on your crust. So let me show you what a miniature fork looks like. Okay, you get like that nice crimping effect. So because I have so many miniature forks, this is what I like to use. But you don't have to do that, because I know that not everybody has miniature forks. I just happen to have miniature everything. So you can go back through and look, this is just the same. It just might take you a little bit longer. And you can go through with a pen and you can crimp your crust. Doesn't this pie just look delicious? I want to make miniature pies and just eat them and pop them like crackers in my mouth, or cookies, more like cookies. So they'd be sweet. Okay, so just go ahead and go around the whole thing. Fantastic. Beautiful. Let me coach you along the way. You can do it! You're almost there! You're so close! Okay, let's not joke too much, because we saw what happened with the cherry pie filling when I got too goofy. Okay, and let's take a second here and look at this. So you have like the nice shading, that's from our chalk pastels, and then you actually have some lighter bits, okay? And that's from pressing down on our fork and going back to the original tan color. I personally really like seeing the difference there. If you don't like it, then you can go back in. Your brush will still have like a little pastel residue on it, and you can go back in and fill it if you want to. But just be careful, because you know, like I said, you might get some of that cherry juice on there. Okay, so it looks pretty good to me. So you could stop there if you want just like a straight up pie. But what I like to do, because I don't have a pie platter underneath, I like to just add my own flavor to my sculpts, and I like to indent it. So what this is, it's like a spoon-like tool. You can get it at any craft store. If you don't have a tool like this, because they can be expensive, like this one was 15 bucks, then I would just go ahead and maybe get a spoon, because it's the same thing, right? That's like not like a unique edge to it that you don't have in your kitchen. Just go ahead and get a spoon and try and do this part. But again, like this part's optional. I just like having a little extra flair to my pie. Because I don't have a plate, I just kind of want to give it like some extra crimping. Okay, and that's great. And then now, of course, because it's Cuddles and Rage style, you want to get some eyes on there. So let's make sure everything is like all good and evened up. Okay, cool. So we are going to take the back of our pin, right? Give it some big eyes. And you'll notice that you kind of flatten out your pie a little bit. That's okay. He doesn't like too flat. I'm gonna add a little face. Got the indentions for our eyes. I'm rocking out the mouth here. Happiness. Oh, you're so happy. Pat him down a little bit. Great. Okay. Because I touched a pie that has not been baked and is covered in pastels, I want to wipe my hands again before touching my black clay. And then I'm just going to pinch off a little black and make a little round balls for my eyes. They should be roughly around the same size. And then I'm going to bloop them in and bloop them in. And there you have a beautiful, delicious, tasty cherry pie. I love these guys. And of course, bake according to your polymer clay instructions because it will vary.